Ladies, thank you everyone for joining us today. It was a very interesting topic, and I think when I spoke to Nathan the first time, who's a celebrity transformation coach, I was like, how are you targeting the Indian population? And I think that's the most obvious question which a lot of us have. Because usually, a coach like you would tell us to eat salads, and here we are talking about idli and rajma, and I had all these questions. And then, trust me, before I signed up for this webinar, I actually went and checked out his whole profile. So, I did my due diligence before saying that, is this webinar useful for the community? I said yes. I think it's going to be super useful to all of us, because everyone is trying to get fit, especially after COVID. The importance of health and wellness, we all know how important it is. All of us want to get there, but again, all of us also have Indian and desi habits, which, including me, I struggle to give up my rajma chawals, and I struggle to give up my idli sambars, right? And I don't think I can survive on a salad diet for long. You can do it for a week, and then we tend to go back to our older Indian native habits. So it's really interesting that we bring to you a session today where we're going to talk about how we can get our dream bodies, but we can still eat desi food. So with that, thank you so much, Nathan, for doing this for our community. Over to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So I'm going to start sharing my screen, and then we can tackle the elephant in the room to start with, which I want to tell you a little bit about my story. So just want to check everyone can see this, right? So lovely. Okay, so let's attack the elephant in the room to start with. So I am white, also known as Gora the Pakora sometimes, depending on who's talking to me. And 7 years ago, I had a friend who was Gujarati who introduced me to the working and coaching with the Indian community. Transparently, I knew nothing 7 years ago. I grew up on spaghetti bolognese, fish and chips, and a Sunday roast. And then seeing food pictures like saag paneer and really questioning what am I seeing on a plate, seeing, trying chevro for the first time, all of these wonderful foods. And I knew nothing 7 years ago, and all I wanted to do was help the community, because that's what my job was to do under my friend. So during that time period, before that, I was London's best personal trainer. I built a gym here in Dubai. If any of you have been to DIFC and been to the Emirates Towers, there is a gym there called Ultimate Performance. I was the person who ran that gym for a year and actually set it up all the way from buying the tissue roll, hiring the staff, and then building it to the point where it was completely sold out, and it was 800 dirhams per session. So a very, very high end network place. And then after that, that's where I started my journey with the South Asian community. And after a few years, I started my own business. And behind the scenes, I'd worked with, at that point, probably 3,000 to 5,000 people. And I just felt this is what I was good at. People were coming to me, asking me what my opinion was after, a white guy who knew nothing, to them being the person that people came to, as opposed to other coaches that may be from India or, living in the UK and being desis. And that's where I just kept on doing the thing that I was really, really good at. I think my speciality is understanding behavior and culture, because ultimately that's what consistency is created from. And I don't want you to judge me based on ultimately what I say. I also want you to look at our mission and then the proof of the pudding, which is, do we get people in shape eating the rajmanchanas, the idlis, the dosas? And I just want to show you a few bits of so Ojita, who is actually in this room right now, this is her picture with one of our clients 2 weeks ago in London with Jay Patel. He's lost 25 kilos. But our mission is to build the healthiest generation of South Asians ever. And I think that's an awesome kind of statement to have, especially most of us get our habits from the generation above, and we're normally trying to stay away from the things that they have, like cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, and maybe some unhealthy activity habits. So in the last bunch of years, these are the types of results that we get with our clients. Each of them have their own stories: kids, menopause, PCOS, going from demotivated, lazy to kind of getting these amazing results, and then getting to these positions. Each of them had different diets, some of them super traditional. If you obviously have friends in the US, you'll notice the disparity between maybe their style of what they deem as Indian style cooking versus us in Dubai or in India and the UK. Everyone's got their variation of how much traditional culture they actually have on a day-to-day basis. We find that the US guys tend to have less of the traditional food on a day-to-day basis, and then more like in India, Dubai, UK are very much housed within the tradition of the chanas, the rajmans, the variations of the cultural staples. So just before I yap on, I want to give you as much value as possibly as I can. This good looking chap here is Judy. He should be in this group right now. If he's not, he's going to get fired, so that's okay. If you struggle with one of these areas, PCOS, menopause, you need fat loss, South Asian recipes, if you struggle with stress eating, or you struggle with alcohol, like drinking alcohol, and maybe that impacts your diet, I just want you to write that in the chat on Google Meet. And what we're going to do is then we're going to send you over a link so you can get a free guide to specifically help those areas. So that should just be something you fill out the name details, and then you'll get a PCOS guide, a menopause guide, a recipe guide, a stress eating guide, alcohol guide. So I just want to give you as much value as possible. I know we're talking about dream bodies right now, but we know that these are some of the major crux areas outside of traditional food, for example, that kind of people fall off with. So I'll review that at the end, and then we can send some stuff over. So let's dig into traditional like kind of eating and navigation. You'll be in one of these 4 areas when it comes to your dream body goals, where you sit on like your journey of, we'll call it the health and fitness journey. You're at the top here, which is I don't know what I'm doing, I'm not on my goal. And then at the bottom is I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm not I know what I'm doing at the top, and I don't know what I'm doing at the bottom. On the left is I eat more traditional food than other types. And then on the other side is I eat different styles more than traditional. So if you're eating, you know, subsidies, rotis, rice every single day, you're on the left-hand side. If you're eating more like, you know, sushi, pasta, you know, eating out at nice restaurants on the right-hand side, that's where I would put you there. And it'd be good to understand as we go through this where you are on these categories. So each one of the 1, 2, 3, and 4 will actually have different strategies, different diet styles, and different mindsets to go into how you approach eating traditional food and equally getting the dream body. So here is how your dream body works. Before we get into traditional food, we need to see its role. We need to see its place in the overall scheme of things. Whether you want to be a size 8, whether you want to be a size 12, whether you want to kind of get a beach body, or whether you just want to kind of feel more comfortable taking your top off at any point in time, we need to understand where we sit. Now, at the bottom, below energy balance, which you probably heard the word calories, calories govern how much fat you have.
Nathan, sorry, your presentation, I don't think the slides are moving.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Thank you, Ojita. Right, let me just recheck that. Sorry, that's why I lift dumbbells.
Yeah, even I can't hear properly.
Okay, let me show my screen anyway. Okay, how is that? Can you see my screen now?
No, the same.
Oh, this is right. Let me come off it and then go back again. That was mentioned. How's that?
It works, yes.
Amazing.
Yes, I think it's the same. I
Okay.
think the voice is not coming, so can't hear.
Okay, well, we're about to
Slow voice.
speak a little bit louder.
No, everything is clear now. I think it's fine.
Thank you. Okay, so these were the results that I was talking about before. This was, if you didn't see Ojita in the pictures, that's what she looks like. She's in the group. She's the one that just corrected me. She's part of the team, head coach of our coaches. And then, as I was saying, that these are the type of results that we get with our ladies who were all different backgrounds, PCOS, menopause, 7 kids, no kids, living a carefree life, you know, living with you know, family-in-law, you know, all of the usual dramas and traumas that come from different backgrounds and cultural dynamics. And everyone's got their own stories. So as I mentioned, you got your free stuff if you want to put that in into the chat. There's the 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me move on to this. So as you see here is that this is the pyramid of what's important to get a dream body. Now at the bottom, you'll see behavior and lifestyle. So that is how we think, how we act, how we respond to negative stuff, how we respond to good stuff, how we reward ourselves, how we think about life in general. The one above that, which monitors fat loss, is energy. So that's how much you eat, how much of anything that you eat. And I'll come back to that in a minute. And then what you eat, which is why we're going to talk about this part around the traditional food, is this middle ground here. What you eat determines ultimately how much muscle mass that you have, how much fat mass that you have, and how often you can consistently stick to the diet or the nutrition strategy that you've got. Like Reema said, if you don't like salads, you're not going to do it for a long period of time. So therefore, it's not going to be useful for the long term. If we're talking like we're expanding generations, so we want to look at the next 20 years. And then you've got what's important after that is when you eat, and then the extra stuff at the top is like supplements and things that kind of, in the grand scheme of things, don't matter as much as how much you eat and how healthy you are in terms of your body fat levels or achieving your dream physique. So a lot of people will, within the community, there is a large, and it's the question we get asked every single day. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's Parley G, whether it's samosa chaat, whether it's coconut oil, whether it's macana nuts, whether it's subzi. Then people with traditional food, they normally start the conversation as, is this good for me? Is this healthy? Is this bad? And everyone has like a different relationship with food, whether it's they think that white rice is bad versus brown rice, whether they think they can have roti on a diet or whether they can have subzi. But ultimately, nothing is good or bad. It's in the quantities in which you have it, normally determine whether it's positive or negative. So when we look at the biggest part of calories and the biggest part of changing your dream physique, here's thought processes that will kind of be what I would usually utilize with all of our clients. Firstly is where you have these calories, because whether you have them too low, you end up being super hungry on a diet and you end up like eating off it. Doesn't matter if you're the most disciplined and most consistent, you'll end up kind of having more. The larger you are in terms of body fat and BMI, will actually increase the amount of underreporting and guessed calories that you have. So if you have over 35% body fat right now, you will generally underreport how much you eat by 40%. So you might be like, oh, I've only had 3 meals and then maybe a bite of this or a bite of that. And it ends up being a lot more than what we anticipate, up to 40%. And that's why it's such a big topic to cover before we go into traditional food, because you can eat as much or as little as traditional food as possible, but if you don't understand the role is how much of it, then you won't get the benefits that you want from your dream physique. So most people guess their food, and most people don't. Also, in an Indian household, the weighing scales are not really something that are in the kitchen dynamics, as we call it. From early doors, food is made based on generational kind of traditions of different recipes that you've seen your mum use or family members use, as opposed to getting accurate with the particular measurements. And that's normally a sore spot for most people when they're guessing their intake, and they're making food from recipes with lots of different variations of sources, and they don't know the exact amount of portions that they're utilizing. So they might use healthy ingredients, but they might be having larger portions, using larger like kind of caloric energy oils, which then leads to this big one at the bottom, this kind of thing that creates fat loss or getting you your dream body is going to be way over than what you need to be. And often it's overlooked, because within the community, we're looking for the healthiest thing. We're looking for good ingredients. We're looking for changing out your normal flour to your wholemeal flour roti, because it's going to help with your blood sugar levels. And we have a lot of people within the community have something what we call a health halo. So a health halo is where you forget the calories in it by saying that, oh, it's only a banana, it's healthy. Oh, it's only, I made these X, Y, and Z things with healthy ingredients, so it's all healthy. Whereas that's forgetting the energy balance, which is the most important part of getting your dream physique. You can eat healthy, but you can still get fat from eating healthy because of the amount of energy that you have from the food. Now, each one of these people in these photos had a different diet. Majid at the top, who lost 60 kilos, he ate takeaway every single day because his parents were eating takeaway every single day. We're talking like fried chicken, we're talking, you name it, he's had it on a diet and lost 60 kilos. Bottom left is Anka, who follows the Jain diet, obviously the religious diet, and would travel quite a lot. Varisha in the middle, on the top middle, she used only a portion controlled traditional food route. So she would make food for her family, and we would give her the right portion sizes, and then she would follow that, and she lost over 35 kilos in 6 months. Dimple on the right hand side used more of a weighing accurate measurements because she had PCOS. She wanted to get a little bit more specific, so she lost 30 kilos over 6 months in that picture, and now she's actually one of our coaches. Jenny in the bottom right, she did a tracking, which is obviously, if you've ever seen like MyFitnessPal, that's a tracking app that you can utilize. And then Lena in the middle followed a meal plan. So they ate different styles of food, they ate different variations, but one commonality is that they controlled their energy intake, whether whether it was through less ideal strategies like eating takeaway every day like Majid did, or it was using more family-centric, consciously diet plans like Varisha, who used portion control. We were able to control the narrative and give you the lifestyle that you like and that you have, with the biggest factor, which is controlling energy balance. It's all down to the strategy that you utilize. So if you're in a position now where you're wanting to lose weight and you're like, okay, either, you know, it's 15 weeks until Diwali, I think so, because we've got a shoot here in Dubai in 14 weeks and an event coming up, which I'd love to invite you guys to, and we're going to do an in-person workshop in 14 weeks, which is just a week before Diwali. If you're thinking, right, I need to get my dress for Diwali, I want to save up some calories and lose a bit of fat so that at Diwali I can indulge you a little bit in the additional sweets, I would love you to do this before you look at whether you should have traditional food or shouldn't have traditional food, and look at the amount of calories that you're ingesting over a 14-day period, and do it as accurately as possible. Now, there's some lovely technology that you can utilize nowadays by just literally taking a picture of food, and it'll tell you the calories within that food on a rough estimate. It'll be off by about 5 to 10%, but that's way better than the realization, the kind of accuracy that you get from it. Include your weekends too. So, you know, write down what bites of food that you had, an orange juice here, an extra chai here, you know, a handful of nuts here. Write everything down so you can eat that humble pie and understand how much you're actually eating on a week-to-week basis. And then when you get that number, you compare it to this number, which is your body weight in pounds times by 10. And if that number is, if the number that you're consuming is way above this, and you've tracked super accurately, super diligently over a 14-day period, it will be the total amount of food that you're consuming across a week, not the types of food, that will be the barrier for you. And you can see where your intake has been higher, whether it's eating out socially, whether it's the little Sunday brunch, or it's going to mumsy's house on a Saturday, whatever it is. There's always going to be those discrepancies. So that's going to be number one when it comes to building that dream physique. But then the question around what everyone's asking, wants to know is like, to Indian food or not to Indian food? That is the question. So now that we look at the role of Indian food, here's how I see it. You need to avoid the rubber band of diets. So if you see yourself, and this is a question we ask all of our clients, if you see yourself eating Indian food until you're 80, majority of the time, you have to then diet with Indian food right now, because you don't want to go too far away. You know, when you stretch a rubber band and it stretches too far away from the center line or the midpoint, which is your anchor on your left hand, and you stretch it with your right hand, as soon as you let go of that position, you spring back to where you were before, because this isn't your normal. Reema said, you know, doing a salad for a week is fine, but I want to come back to my chana the week after. Just do the channel and learn how to do it in the first place, and you wouldn't have that kind of forwards and backwards moment. So if you are part of that part of the community that see themselves eating traditional food, either with the family or just because that's your preference and that's what you grew up on, start with Indian food now. If it's something that you like, I would give you a reference point of some of our American clients, they have it on occasion. So maybe when mum's cooking it, or maybe it's twice a week, or there's some variation between, you might be able to blend the gap between the two. But if you definitely are type who eats Indian food more often, you need to diet with it right now, because that's going to be how you diet for the rest of your life. Secondly, is that's part of your lifestyle. It's easy and convenient. Family is always first when it comes to your ability to be consistent. If you have to do 6 different dishes every night because you've got, you know, a meat eater, a veggie, and then you've got a picky son or something like that, your kitchen dynamics, the amount of washing up that you do is going to be absolutely crazy. So we want to avoid as much washing up as possible, saves on the DIY bills for the washing. And ultimately, if we can cook one dish for everybody in the evening, your consistency of your ability to follow something is going to be so much higher than having to put so much extra effort in when you're looking at like kind of creating a different diet to compare to everybody else. The questions that you've got to ask yourself when you're looking at whether you should Indian food or not Indian food is, am I willing to make changes to my portions? Am I willing to be having less than what I'm used to? Can I get rid of my eyes being bigger than my belly? Can I say no to multiple servings? And are you willing to get specific first before getting flexible? So are you willing to understand how many calories, how much measurements that you need before you can then eyeball in the future? If you're willing to do that, you'll be very successful with traditional food. You'll be very successful with having a next 20 years of sustainable, healthy lifestyles. But in the initial phases, you need to learn what the right is for your new body that you want, as opposed to the body that you've got right now. So most people will look at like the good and bad foods. I want to come back to that. It's like if you have it in your mind, you might think biscuits are bad. You might think that rotis are bad. You might think that gulab jamuns are bad, or like going out for a pizza is bad. But everything is relative to context of where it's placed in the day and how much you have around it. Most people struggle with the diet in what we call the social pillar of dieting, which I'll cover the 4 types of diets later. But they struggle in those environments because they don't know how to portion control. They don't know how to have the right amounts of food, and they normally end up things being bad. So they either go on these diets and they really don't enjoy it, and they feel super restricted. They hate every moment of it. They feel like they're missing out. And then they go to these sporadic periods of where they don't care, and that's where they're eating everything in the house. It doesn't matter what it is. And we want to avoid that to create consistency with whatever diet that you follow, traditional or not. So here's an example of what you can do on the left-hand side to include something that has traditional or some variability of tradition. And on the right-hand side is what would happen if you just add things randomly to your day without getting specific with the numbers first. So if you just try and be eyeballing numbers based on I'll have puha, it's healthy, or I'll have a handful of nuts, it's kind of okay. The one on the right shows you that you can just add up very long over time. It's up to 3,500 calories just by adding some additional biscuits in throughout the day. Now, the left-hand side, you've got the person on the left side, which is 100% clean, 100% normal. They don't have any niceties. On the right-hand side, you've got 80% clean and 20% indulgent. And obviously, this might be to other people's taste. They might not like ice cream, but this is how I like to have ice cream every night. I still do to this day. So this is the same amount of results. Both the left and the right side on number 1 would get the same level of fat loss every single day. One of them is where you have no indulgence. The other one is where you have an ice cream, on a day-to-day basis. Because you learn the specificity of the traditional food, because you learn the specificity of how much you can have of these food in the short term, you are then able to have this like flexibility to 20%, which is awesome. On the right-hand side is when you don't learn flexibility and you just have based on how you feel. Most people have created an environment, especially within the community. Obviously not been in the community myself, but then looking from a 30,000-foot view above, there is a notion that we can't be hungry. We can't say no. We should honor that. If I'm hungry, I should always eat. If I have a craving, I should always eat. And all of these things wrap up to having significantly higher calories across a day, which is where the problems tend to start. Now, we want to get into the traditional stuff now, but I want to just show through this, which is, so every food, whether you have it as a good or a bad in your mind, holds validity somewhere in your life. Alcohol is terrible for you and your body, but it's great as a social lubricant, and you enjoy your life better when you've had 2 glasses of red wine. Life gets so much better when you've had a few red wines, right? So in some way of your life, it holds some utility. So we don't want to take that utility away. We want to learn how you can have this wine, you can have these sweets, and the same philosophy goes to alcohol, evening meals out and traditional food, is once you learn how much you can have, it doesn't mean you can have it all the time, but it will be something that it would be beneficial to put into your life. So here's some changes that I would make when we look at our Indian food habits, but we also look at our food itself. So the things that I would change when we're looking at, like, even when we look at Chana Rajman, we look at the dishes of any sort, whether it's North Indian, South Indian, breakfast options, lunch options, dinner options, snack options, is that we tend to have lower amounts of protein. Obviously, that protein is the biggest word that you've probably heard a million times over. You're probably sick of it. And I will, again, echo the fact that protein needs to be there. But I will center this around 2 things. I'll show you some facts, and then I'll show you some fiction. So I'll show you the facts, which is, here's 2 dieters. So these 2 people started with me in September. On the left-hand side, we only follow the traditional diet. She didn't want to change anything. She didn't want to kind of go away from the norm. She wanted the habits that she currently had, but she wanted them 20 kilos down. Cool. I'm not going to argue with someone that wants to eat traditional all of the time. And then on the right-hand side, he took a bit more of a westernized approach with a few meals across a week that was traditional, or the traditional meals that he did have were tweaked with the right levels of protein, the right ingredients across the way. So they both lost a significant weight. That's why the scale weight is like that. Now, the problem is that we monitor muscle mass over the last 6 months. the lady who just ate traditional food and didn't change any of the protein sources also lost 5 kilos of muscle, whereas the person on the right-hand side barely lost any muscle tissue. And when we're looking at the really important part of why you'll want to look at your chana, your rajman, your tofus, your tempehs, your paneers, your lean meats differently, is because all of you ladies in this room, if you're anywhere close to 50 or beyond, the scope of osteoporosis is not in your favor. And the muscle mass can only go down from here if it's naturally going to take its place. Both of those have been linked with lower quality of life, like frailness in older age, lower quality of health, higher risk of type 2 diabetes, because that normally comes with lack of activity. And I would hate for you ladies to miss out on the big train, which is just making some small tweaks to your traditional food if you're eating it, to not have this left-hand graph, but actually have more of this right-hand graph as you go and get your dream physique. So I just wanted to show you the facts of that, because we let this play out for this lady because she was adamant that she didn't want to change it, even despite our recommendations. But that's what happens when you don't tweak the traditional food in a really good way. So I'll come back to those tweaks now. So you're looking for protein sources on a more consistent basis that have what we call leucine. And you don't need to know effectively what leucine is, but think of like an on and off switch of a light bulb. It turns on muscle recovery, muscle retention, and muscle building. We're not talking like Hulk muscle building, like bodybuilder muscle building. We're talking about you just keeping the muscle mass you have and being healthy. Now, if you don't get protein sources with that in, it doesn't do what protein is supposedly does. So you might eat a lot of chana, a lot of dal, a lot of rajman, a lot of protein-rich things like chia seeds, but none of them have that light switch, which means that you could have all the dal in the world and you still would lose muscle tissue. So the things that you have to do is look for more leucine-based foods, or at least add things that have leucine in to your meals. And most traditional dishes have some form of like this counterbalance, because normally if you do like a dal, sabzi, roti rice, you'll have some yogurt on the side. That yogurt has an incredible amount of leucine. You just need to increase the amount of servings that you have of that, probably more toward the 150 gram mark, as opposed to having it without the dal, the chanas and the rajmans. So if you do have a dal-based meal or a bean-based meal, let's just call them all beans for now, you want to have a unusually high level of yogurt next to it. And if you can get those scales out, 150 grams, if you want to tablespoon it, I'm probably going to say it's about 5 to 6 tablespoons. That might be more than what you're usually doing, but that will be the difference between you losing muscle mass and not losing muscle mass, trying to achieve your dream body. And then across the week, when you're looking at staying on a diet, when you're looking at getting your dream body, a lot of the traditional foods in nature sometimes don't have the most filling sources. So you have to play a game called high volume eating. So you know that feeling when you've had potato or aloo, when you've had aloo and you feel quite stuffed and quite satiated. Potato is like the highest satiating food in the whole of the index of food, which means that per bite of potato versus anything else, you'll get more full off potato. So you want to use high volume food sources versus most traditional meals include low volume food sources for the same amount of calories. You know, one roti is 200 calories, half a plate of rice potentially cooked is 200 calories. Which one do you get more bites of? Which more do you get filling from? And that will be the rice because of how much, denser the kind of volume is. So you want to use high volume food sources at least 80% of the week. So that means adding more volume to your subsies, adding more, salad on the sides of your meals that are just not a whole salad, but just addition to the side, adding cruciferous veggies to your meals, using protein sources like tofu, tempeh, low-fat paneer, as opposed to maybe dal-based stuff because of how big they are compared to how small the dal is. And then keeping your portion sizes to your calorie specific. So we can eat the traditional food. We do it with all of our clients if they want to do it. But the biggest separation is those who are not willing to change their portion sizes never get results. If they come with the words like, I couldn't just eat one of those things. If I couldn't just have one roti, they're normally destined for a bit of failure, if we're being honest. Like, we have to get used to a little less than what we're used to. Whether it's one or two, or we can abide by the numbers, but if you're not going to be able to reduce your portion sizes down, you'll find it really hard to have a successful diet, because normally the portion sizes that you have right now are the contributing factor to the way that your body looks right now. And that's just the harsh truth of kind of where food sits in the importance of successful dieting. Things that don't matter for you guys, which will ruffle up lots of feathers is whether you use olive oil, coconut, or ghee as a base. Doesn't matter. They're all the same amount of calories per tablespoon. And yes, they give you some different variations of benefits, 100%. But if you have a BMI over 23, you've got bigger fish to fry than olive oil, coconut, or ghee. The obesity that you have compared to a 23 BMI is the disparity between healthy and not. I recommend that someone gets to 23 BMI before they start speaking about what is a better health benefit from oil. You're only going to see these small benefits from olive oil, coconut oil, wholemeal flour versus other flours if you don't have the biggest anchor weighing on you, which is levels of obesity and levels of centralized fat gain around that midsection. So get the fat off first, then worry about the small intricate details. What doesn't really matter is having either one big meal or 4 smaller meals. Like, for example, the guy that I showed you before, Anchor, he is obviously Jain, so on religious days, whether it's Ekadashi, he would have like one larger meal in the evening and one smaller in the afternoon. Same level of fat loss across the day. It's just down to preferences. I would recommend having at least a few servings of food across a day if you don't want to be hungry. Most people have tried intermittent fasting and they end up over consuming it in the evening because they have this insatiable hunger that normally leads to 2, 3, or 4 servings being eaten in the evening. And like I said before, roti flour versus wholemeal flour, if you focus on the biggest rock, you'll get the same benefit. So a lot of people take the wholemeal flour versus the normal flour because of the blood sugar variables that fiber intakes. But if you have a meal that is balanced, full of protein, it has veggies in there, it has already fiber, and you're working on bringing your body fat down, whether you have wholemeal or other flours, it doesn't matter. Because the biggest change will come if you drop 10% of your body weight. So for example, if you're 90 kilos right now and you drop 9 kilos, if you had type 2 diabetes, you would reverse it completely. That's the research. 10% of your body weight takes you from a 6.01 or 6.1 on the blood sugar levels down to a below 5, which is life-changing within itself. And that is the biggest thing you can do for your blood sugar levels, not whether you use wholemeal flour. Use the one that tastes nice, use the one that you can enjoy, use the one that everyone in the house likes, and then you'll have less of a pedantic evening meal trying to get one of your kids eating chickpea flour rotis as opposed to the normal ones that they used to. The kitchen dynamics and the family dynamics are absolutely everything to consistency. Now, within the Indian mindset and the Indian food to successful dieting, a lot of people within the community have what we call food noise. They think about food quite a lot. It's such a large topic. It's there in the good moments, it's there in the bad moments. It's there as a family binder. It's the glue between people when they go to other people's houses. It is everything. So therefore, when you then go on these diets or when you try and make a change to your dream body, you get a lot of food noise of what to make. I want variety. I want different foods every day. And that can become quite overwhelming. And most importantly, to get that dream body and eat traditional food, you need to actually limit your variation across a week. So I preferably wouldn't be doing like different meals every day for a 14-day period. I would do evening meals. I'd do like 3 to 5 different variations and rotate them, with the weekend probably being socially out or different variations at the weekend. If you have less variety and you have them already made in terms of a structure, you'll have less food noise, less cravings, less ability to fall off your diet because it's not screaming at you up here to eat the cookie or eat the extra serving. Another thing that creates consistency is more weekly meal planning. Most people go with the flow. Most people just plan it out on the day on how they feel, and they're the ones that end up making poorer decisions, prone to more takeaways, more deliveries, more talabats, as opposed to having something that's structured and more organized. Actually helps the family as well if you know what you're having on different days. And if you really, really want frictionless dieting, frictionless successful dieting, pre-made servings of your subsies, your dals, your rotis, your rice already pre-made for the week ahead in a few day batches will just make sure that you get your meals without having to think about it and without actually having to do anything with it. And eating the same as the family creates a lot more consistency as well. So if you're looking at traditional food and how you want to make it, this is how we plan it out. So there's 4 areas of nutrition that you want to look at to create consistency. You've got home, social, work, and travel. And majority of your traditional eating will either be in home or social. If you eat traditional at home and you like the variety in Dubai and you go to different restaurants of different cultures and cuisines, that'll be awesome. If equally you still go socially and you still eat Indian food or South Asian food and you still go out socially, this will be really helpful. It's like when you're looking at home, how much of it is the most important part? So when we look at an example, which I just pulled together, it's nothing crazy, some breakfast options, for example. So like dosa, sambar, basil chile, yogurt, small bowl of puha, 100 ml egg whites. These are some small tweaks and changes that you can make to those additional meals. One is a low protein meal. The second one is a medium protein meal. And then this third one is a higher protein meal. You're having the same thing that you might already have, but you're making one tweak to it, and they're all under 300 calories. And when we're looking at spreading your calories across a day, you want most meals to be between 300 to 500 calories, because then you can have a bunch of those across a day, whether it's 2, 3, or 4, to actually get the right amount of calories in without being hungry at one part in the day or having to eat dust at another part in the day. Lunches and dinners, for example, 500 calories are some easy ones here. And this is why I said knowing your specific numbers, whether it's just cooked afterwards, is any type of dal, chana rajman, 150 grams is around about 200 calories. And then 100 grams of cooked rice, roti, and 100 grams of low-fat yogurt, that's going to be around about 500 calories too. Whether that's for you or that's for another family member, most people can eat that meal and still be okay from a health perspective. And if hubby wants an extra roti, you can chuck him one on the side if he's been a good boy. And then when it comes to the lunches as well, palak paneer is absolutely great from a protein perspective, and the palak is great fiber with 50 grams of paneer, and then obviously the 50 grams comes from the palak or the veggies that you utilize. 100 grams cooked, that's supposed to say rice. Oopsie. But I'll add that in later. And then veggies. That's another 500 calorie meal that comes from the same. Now note that these don't include oils. I took the oils out so that you can save as much as you can, so that you can eat as much as you can. The less you cook with, the more that you get to chew and eat. And that's the kind of goal of good, successful dieting, is eat as much as you can, drink and consume as less like random stuff as possible. And then anything from like a general like curry chicken with, it's a tomato base with chilies, whether it's the garlic, all of the spices, 100 grams of cooked jeera rice and 100 grams of rapia with the cucumber and mint. That would be another 500 calorie lunch and dinner. So these are just examples that once you get to know these like small ingredient numbers, you can rotate them in different variations. So, you can take this meal here, and we do this with all of our clients. We teach them how to make one meal, 7 different variations. You could take this meal from palak paneer, and you just change the veggies or the base, which is the palak, and you change it into a chili paneer. And then you've got the same amount, and as provided you're not using any additional oils, you're going to have a chili paneer as opposed to a palak paneer. And then you can make something that's a little bit different with a different gravy base. And now you've got 3 rotations of the same meal that hasn't gone above the calories. That is super easy once you've got the measurements in place. And that's where the baseline of everything comes to traditional, is understanding the base of what's important, and then switching some of the less important stuff like the veggies, the chili, the sauce, the seasonings behind it, which then creates the flavor, the texture, the taste. But the base of the protein, the carbs, and the veggies can be twisted with the sauce and the condiment to make these different bases so that you never get bored, and you can have your favorite foods, you can have your favorite dishes around that as well. And then when you're looking at strategies as well, so you might be thinking that sometimes I'm not in control of the cooking. I don't want to weigh the food. I'm going to be out for dinner, and how do I control that? Or how do I control it if mum-in-law comes over? All of the usual kind of standard questions that comes. Here's the easiest way that you can navigate traditional food when it comes to that. So the easy route is you've got something called the 1 plate rule. So this is where you take 1 plate and then you put it into quarters. I'll actually show you one that I've got right now in the back garden. There we go. Something I prepared earlier for Instagram. So very similar to this is that if you have a plate like this and you don't go for seconds, you can't be that wrong. Like, as long as you don't go for seconds and start chipping things back onto it, you'll be absolutely fine. Whether it's the paneer, chicken, salmon, whatever, tofu, whatever you put in this one, the carb goes in that one. And like, for example, if it's like a naan or like it's a roti that can not fit in here, maybe you're making them a bit too big, and then you can adjust the size on that. But most of my clients just fold it over, then take the picture and tell me. So be a little bit cheeky with it. And then the rest is your veggies, your subsies, that type of stuff as well. So you can do this at mum's house, you can do this at auntie's house, you can do this at anywhere that has food on the middle of a table that you're then going to press out and you're going to pull out from, because you're in control of that. There's three ways that you control food on a diet, or traditional food on a diet. One is the grocery shop into the fridge or the cupboard onto the plate, and then the plate into your mouth. Now, when you're socially eating, you've only got control of what goes on the plate into your mouth. And bear in mind, there'll be others, the social pressures, not wanting to waste food, not being able to say no to other people, and kind of, getting used to the customs of the portion sizes. But this thing here has lost more kilos for my clients than anything else, keeping their traditional food in place. Some parts of this, we don't care what goes on the plate, because at some point, one portion is always better than two when you're trying to eat less. So if you ever get stuck and you're like, what did Nathan say about traditional food, and trying to understand what's going on, is just one plate ruler, and that will drop you 20 kilos. That's what this lady here did. The top one here, she only did this one around here. She only did the one plate rule. Like every meal, she would make it with her family, whatever's make lunch, dal variation for lunch, paneer variation for the evening, whatever it was. And then she would just use the one plate rule, and then it would be in line with what she wanted. And then she would control her breakfast, and then it would be hunky-dory from that side. So this will save you a lot of trauma. And if you do that 14 days with a one plate rule, you'll have a lot better outcomes with your health and fitness, and you won't need to worry about sometimes the ingredients, which sometimes overloads people's mindsets. Easy ways to navigate traditional food as well is if you struggle initially, if you're thinking about, I do struggle with when food's in front of me, I love it so much that I always take the seconds. Try an 80-20 rule, which is for 80% of the week, don't have it, and for 20% of the week, tactically have it. Because you can take yourself away from the situation, and then you can go and practice being better habitually around those food. Because it's not normally the cooking element to it, it's normally just the control around having like 1 pav bhaji instead of 3 pav bhajis, or having chevra by the handful versus by a tablespoon wise. And then you want to change your approach from healthy traditional food to calorie controlled traditional food. You'll get a lot more out of the calorie controlled traditional food, because that is what governs calories, which governs then your fat loss. If you just eat healthy food, it might be still 1,000 calories. For example, I just shot a YouTube video in Dubai Mall trying to find 50 grams of protein in as a veggie Indian, trying to find 50 grams of protein in Dubai Mall. And I couldn't find 50 grams of protein unless it was under 1,000 calories. And most of the healthy meals in Dubai Mall, when you're looking at veggie meals for protein, are anywhere between 800 to 1,000 calories. That might be 75% of your total calories of the day. You might have just wasted, a lot of food in one go. And you'll find it very hard to stay on the diet when your one meal is so big. So finding stuff that is calorie controlled as opposed to just healthy is a saving grace for all of our clients. And by proxy of making calorie controlled food, you also then do healthy food alongside it, because they go hand in hand, but just a little bit more tactical. Medium ways that you can kind of change for traditional food is learn how to make low calorie options. Everything from the recipe guide that I put in here to using ChatGPT. Like AI is fantastic. And all you need to do is ask it for the specific foods, flavors that you like, that under a particular amount of calories. If you've seen some of my videos, if you scroll back enough, we did videos on like basil and chilies, we did videos on like butter chicken, and they all came from ChatGPT, where it was like, hey, give me a butter chicken restaurant menu, or give me a recipe under 450 calories of butter chicken, but I want these type of styles of protein and this type of style of rice, and I want it cooked in 20 minutes. And then boom, now you got a 450 calorie meal as opposed to what you would usually have before. And all it takes is being specific at the beginning to find that repetition in that butter chicken meal, that dal and chana meal. And then you're now off to the races doing the exact same thing you were doing before, but just slightly different with epic results. Using less oils overall, if you can get away, if you can, obviously there are people who definitely can taste the difference. And there are family members that also know the difference between ghee and olive oil, and their taste buds are so sensitive that they don't want the one that they don't like. Is if you can get away with 0-cal options like the spray oil, or just cooking in a non-stick pan, you're going to save at least 200 to 300 calories a day, which could lead to every 10 days you losing an extra pound of body fat, just by taking away the oils and replacing it with spray or non-stick pan, if you can do that. And if you can't, then try a teaspoon of oil as opposed to a tablespoon. Or if you're part of the community that do this on top of their meals, or on top of their plate or pan, or do it haphazardly, you just take it to measured, and you'll change the dynamic completely. Now, the hard things when it comes to traditional food and kind of overcoming the barriers of getting your dream physique is learning to rewire your portion sizes, like learning to love ones of things, twos of things, as opposed to multiple teplers or multiple, variable bits. Saying no to others is probably the hardest thing and the most common thing that probably combines the 15,000 South Asians that I've worked with. It's a cultural thing. It's a generational thing. Is the fear of disappointing somebody. Now, I have lots of opinions on this in terms of how it's impacted my clients. All I would say is at some point, you will have to say no, whether it's the second or third or fourth plate. You might as well make it lower in the process so that you get what you want to. More times you say no, the more they get accustomed to you saying no. And I'm not saying no to nothing. I'm saying, like, once you've done the one plate rule and you have a plate and you're in the company of these individuals and you're having their food in the portion sized amount, that second plate, that third plate are the bits that tend to take you over. So if you can build up the tolerance, which for most people takes about 4 months of consistently saying no to that second plate before it becomes a habit and a lifestyle and something that someone thinks you're serious about. Because the worst thing that you can do is say no, then say yes, and then they know that they can just keep on asking you and you're going to say yes and you're going to give in, which you don't want those type of friends. So you want to kind of say no and honor those portion sizes for yourself. Ultimately, we can't get away from just eating whatever we want, and be okay to waste food. So this is obviously another thing as well. You don't have to, but if you wanted the most amount of control, the most around, like, psychologically around food, and you wanted the most psychological around traditional food and having any type of food in your house that you absolutely love and adore, being okay to waste it also creates not this like lack of urgency to finish it off. Most people who have that mindset end up going back for seconds in the evening or finishing it off the day later, and that gets them further away from their dream physique because they're just having additional calories. And it's all these emotional kind of thought processes that most people think are just how I am and just how I'm built. But actually, yes, it's from where you got it from generationally, but it doesn't mean, and everyone else does the same thing, but it doesn't mean that you can't change it going forwards. And if we want to be the generation of the healthiest South Asians, we also have to look at things in a different light as well, which might be to challenge some of these behaviors too. Now, I've got one more thing, which is just looking at how to build your meal plan, build your day's food intake, if you'd like to look through that. So firstly is structure. So we'll look through the home one first. So home structure. Ideally, this is what we do with our clients because it creates the most stable level of hunger, most stable level of consistency. It goes in with the social norms of most people having, Monday lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner and a snack. So we create that structure: breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack. We just call it meal 1, 2, and 3, 4, because we don't care what time you have it. We just care that you have those 4 servings of food. Secondly is the calories. So not the servings or the ingredients, but the total calories. So I just used an example. I think of my math's terrible, so I think I used 1,600 calories as an example, which would be for someone that's 160 pounds, or for in kilos, that would be someone that's around 70 to 72 kilos. That would be the number of calories we would put you on to kind of start your fat loss journey at 1,600 calories. So we split that evenly across the meals, a little bit less for breakfast, a little bit less before bed, and then the 2 meals in between. The most important meal here, traditionally, and in importance of consistency, is this snack before bed. I can't tell you on like a spectrum of impact, someone having a snack before bed when they're sitting down watching Netflix versus them doing it anyway, but cheating on their diet, is so impactful for habit building, because you're doing something that is controlled as opposed to something where you're like, oh, I just grabbed a bit of this and I cheated on my diet and then I'm now back and feeling guilty and then I'm back out of momentum. So we use that opportunity in the evening to use the chai gatyas, the little chocolate bar that people like, a little 300 calorie well done meal for sticking to it for the rest of the day. And there's nothing better than sitting on the sofa watching, I don't know, High School Musical or some TV, and then having your chocolate bar that you want to have. And that is under the 300 calories. It will get you the same level of fat loss than it would do if you were having that from an apple, a banana, and a pear. But it gives you psychological enrichment, emotional enrichment, which is part of consistency overall. It's not just like what is good for our body, it's what's good for our brain too, and keeping you from less being hungry in the evening too. Meals 1 and 2 and 3 are just evenly spread. The next thing that you do is add your protein sources. Now, bear in mind, you're going to do 2 to 3 of these. You're not just going to do 1 and then that's the same meal every single day. You're going to get very bored of doing that. I would make 3 of these. So, and I can send you some documents after this that allows you to put these into into grammage, and that would be super easy. And if Orjita's still in the chat here, let me just check if she's here, or Judy. Okay, fine, they're gone. Amazing. My team decided to go off, have a day off without me. Fine.
I'm still here.
Oh, cool.
You're gone. Yeah.
Go. Top mark. Can you add in the swap document to the in-person meeting messaging? Just our things that we use with our clients so that people can make them by themselves.
Perfect. Okay.
Cool. So Judy's going to put something in which we use with all of our paying clients, which is what we call our swaps document. So it gives you swaps of protein sources, swaps of carbs, all the same amount of calories, all the same impact, and then you just get familiar with the grammage of that. So then you can start making meals with that too. Raw, Priyal. Everything's raw just because when you're making something, normally that's the process that you do. If you do have other people making it for you, it's easier to do it cooked. Obviously, you don't want to save the fuss of other people asking you and like, hey, how many grams of that? They won't know. So like you just ask, do it afterwards when no one's looking. I do that with Bharti. I've got a house help from Hyderabad who makes an incredible biryani and chai in the morning for me. Not at the same time, just the chai in the mornings and biryani on the weekend. And I just she puts rice on the stove as most Indian household has, and it's already there waiting for me, and I just portion it out. So, and that's all the easiest way to do that. Now, so you pick your protein source from the list that I'm going to give you, and that will give you 20-30 grams per serving. That's going to give you that protein target I talked about that allows you to not fall under that trap of reducing muscle mass. Then after you've added the protein targets, you're going to then add your salad. So whether it's a subzi, whether it's mixed salad, whether it's grilled veggies, whether it's whichever, classic cucumber and tomato, whichever ones you fancy the way that you want to do it, dry bindi, for example. And then you add your carbohydrates. Now, once you've got this between protein, carb, and veggie, you've got an interesting philosophy. You can make these into whatever style of dish that you want. You can make for example, I'll give you one of my favorites, pav bhaji. Pav bhaji is one of my favorites, and debelly, which is like more of a Kenyan Indian dish, which you get from Nairobi, which is just insane. It's got like chevron sev in the middle of the pav bhaji, incredible. And basically, you could make something like that with meal 3. If you change the roti for the bun that comes with the pav bhaji, if you then change the dal for the potato, and then mash that all up together, then you added a bit of extra stuff in the middle, like the tamarind sauce and the bits that go with it, then you have yourself a budget, low-calorie pav bhaji. Is it going to be the ones that you cooked before? That's amazing. Probably not as much as well, but it's going to give you something that allows you to kind of separate the gap between going all out for somebody else or getting your goal results. So it's just a bit creative thinking about the raw ingredients and then combining them together however you like them. So you can put the ingredients here, and then you can start making bits and bobs for yourself. And like I said, that last meal before bed, you've got some protein and you've got 10 Parle G biscuits, which is, my favorite to go with as well. And they're great with the chai. And then you do that repetitively for three times. And then you make Monday to Friday dinners. And once you get really good at it, you only need, most people eat between 25 to 30 sources of food on a week-to-week basis. And once you've got your meal structures, the foods that you like across the 25 to 30 food sources, you'll be able to repeat that with kind of structures that you have.
I'm here only, I'm not going there.
So,
What's cake?
See if we can mute that person. So that
Sounds pretty bad.
let me add some comments. Let me add some messages to the chat. So I would love to hear some questions and some thoughts around it, just because I didn't know what people wanted coming into this. I'm trying to give you as much of the real stuff, some of the cultural traditional stuff that kind of people fall with, and then if you want some let's go into detail on the types of food that you want to see, etc., like that, or you've got some variations to do that as well. Okay. Okay, so Jay, I do have prediabetes, hypothyroidism, fibroids, hair fallout, dry skin. I'm not able to lose weight. I'm finding it difficult to lose weight. So I think the most important thing when it comes to this is I'd love to see you do this task here of what you've eaten over a 14-day period. Now, having lots of things, this is what you're struggling with right now, is that can obviously weigh a lot of toll on you from a mental and emotional perspective. And if you've tried multiple times, you could feel really defeated by this. And it'd be really good to just have a reset of like a recalibration of what you are actually eating, even how you feel. So inconsequential, it might be a bite of something, it might be a soup, it might be an orange juice, but I want you to think about everything you eat over a 14-day period. And if you makes it easy, you can drop me a message on Instagram, you can send me that 14-day and I'll tell you what's missing. But none of the things that you have stop weight loss. They just are conditions and health concerns, but from fat loss doesn't stop because of that. So I'd always question first one here, which is energy balance. And normally when people are going through stuff, they normally tend to emotionally eat a little bit more towards the evenings or the weekends, and that kind of causes a little bit more of a calorie intake. And if you tried lots before, so I would do the 14-day of noting everything down, and then see what that number comes out as, and then you might find that there's a little bit extra going into where it needs to. Anyone else got any questions? Cool. 555. Hypothyroidism and having sweet tooth, any specific do's and don'ts? So Hector, I'll come to Neil, sorry, I missed Neil as well. So if you've got hypothyroidism, my first thought process is it medicated? If it's not medicated, then you'll have a reduction of basal metabolic rate. So you burn less calories than someone else. It's the same as PCOS to some degree as well. If you've got PCOS or you've got hypothyroidism, you'll burn less calories than the average female. And therefore you'll want to take note of where the calories sit on a day-to-day basis and how much you can actually eat with your condition. And having a sweet tooth, I think there are probably polar differences, maybe a little bit more tiredness from the hypothyroidism probably promotes a sweet tooth. My question to you in do's and don'ts is, when's the last time that you actually had sweet stuff but included them into a diet? When's the last time, if you have a common time when you eat sweet stuff or like sweet stuff, why not facilitate that as opposed to go against it? And then the third one is, you want to figure out if you're reinforcing these bad habits because you'll keep on doing it. And it'd be good to see what would happen if you broke that chain of going 3 to 5 days without doing it at that time, but then every single day had something sweet. There's nothing wrong with something sweet. You just got to, again, go back to this here, which is your 300 calorie, your stack before bed, is try having some sweet stuff before bed that's calorie controlled at 300 calories. It could be, it could be 5 digestive biscuits, it could be 10 Poly-G biscuits, it could be, I don't know, whatever you find as sweet, 2 scoops of ice cream. And then don't demonize sweet stuff. Just if it's under 300 calories, you'll still get the same level of fat loss. So you don't need to worry about it. It's only when you're over consuming the sweet stuff compared to what you're supposed to be eating is the issue. So I would look at that too. Neha, pre-diabetic, what do you suggest to take care? Pre-diabetic, the easiest thing that you can solve that is lose 10% of your body weight. No different food sources, the ingredients won't help to a long-term effect over the next 20 years. The easiest way to, which is the hardest thing to do, but the easiest thing to suggest is if you lose 10% of your body weight, if you go in a calorie controlled diet and you lose 10, for example, 9 kilos or 10 kilos, you won't have pre-diabetes anymore. That's what the research is clear about. You lose 10% and you get rid of it. So a lot of people make the mistake of trying to change the wholemeal stuff for the normal stuff, for the wholemeal stuff. They'll cut out white rice and have brown rice. But the elephant is in the room, which is the fact that it's a lifestyle disease, which means that it's based on your lifestyle and the obesity that comes from that lifestyle. So I would change nothing but lose 10 kilos, and that will change everything for your lifestyle, for everything. And then obviously if you're in menopause and pure vegetarian, then I would none of those. I would have the same advice. I would just say what you need if you're in menopause now, and if there's fewer people that are also on in menopause, pre-menopause, or after, is people who have menopause or have pain. So if you're struggling with like a large issue, let's say for example you get migraines, or you have these wild emotional days, whether it's like struggling with some depression or some dark days, low days, high days, menopause is very similar. There are days in which you are a super trooper, and there are some days that you just want to not do anything. And what we do with our clients is we actually make 2 diet plans. That's why we have home, social, and work. We just change the work one, and we just put that into high day meno and then low day meno. And that means on a day where you feel super low, you're going to eat food sources that are a little bit more tasty, maybe a little less accurate, a little more filling, and a little more emotionally satiating, like the snack in the evening, or kind of having some of your home comforts, but in calorie control measures. And then and doing less activity because you feel quite low on those days. And then on the days that you feel like a super trooper, that's when we go for it. And then we push forwards. It's very similar with menopause. Is that we like this concept of like a couple of days forwards, 2 steps back, 7 days forward, 2 steps back, because not every day is going to be the same. So you can't, on a diet, which is supposed to be every day is a diet, menopause doesn't work that way. So you have to go with there's a quote in like boxing, which is like roll with the punches, which is like you have to go with the flow. But as long as you've got like a low day menopause strategy and a high day menopause strategy, you will be able to roll with the punches as best as you can and stay on track. Most of the time, it's people get hit with those low days. That's when their food becomes a lot more wilder. That's when they start putting on more weight. And then that's when all the other concerns kind of come around as well. So hopefully that helped. It's my place to use a good guide. Yeah, this plate is the best thing since sliced bread. I've got 5 of them. It's great. Which protein do you recommend? Do you have any recipes to make home protein powder at home? As I've heard, all proteins have side effects. Okay, let me tackle this one. So the research is empirically clear. Let's take away people's opinions. So this is not my opinion. This is just research. Is that protein powder is just filtered milk. That's all it is. So if you put milk in your chai and you put milk on your cereal, you're basically having whey protein, but not in the dosages or grammage that it's kind of having the powders. All that whey protein is, or protein powder, is 3 steps below milk. It's milk, past filtered, then the gooey bit that comes out of it is then got rid of, curd, and then the liquid after that, that's what whey protein is. That's what all the protein is. It's very similar to eggs. Eggs is the yolk, which is the yellow, and the white is the protein. Same with milk. When it separates and curdles, the little yellowy kind of colored, that's what protein is from milk. And then they filter that down into a powder, and then they add some coloring and navigation. So when people say protein powder has side effects, I'm like, well, you still like milk, it's milk. So what side effects can it have? That's the same as milk. And providing, yes, there are always going to be things where people make bad batches. They also create terrible products sometimes. I only trust a few brands, which is Dimetize, Optimum Nutrition, Ghost. And you want to avoid anything, in my opinion, that tries to market. By the way, the supplement industry is a $1 trillion industry. So if you feel like something appeals to you on the storefront, they've got you hooked on marketing rather than actually the product. Because you're like, oh, that looks lovely. And that's not what a protein powder is supposed to do. It's not supposed to look lovely. It's supposed to be lovely. So you want to stay away from things that like natural, organic, because reality is that that's normally the ones that get you for the marketing perspective, as opposed to the quality of the protein. And always be careful of someone that just recommends one protein brand. They're normally like affiliated with them, or they're blind leading the blind, it's their brand. Whereas I'll say just get 4 different ones: Optimum Nutrition, Dimetize, Ghost, or Applied Nutrition, all pretty decent ones. They've all been tested. I've actually looked at the research and the warehouse data from the ingredients, and it's not underdosed or anything like that. So those are ones that regularly get tested within the testing pool. Yeah. So let me ask some more. Let me do some more questions. When we look through this, what can we do to best with thyroid and hormones balancing for over 30 and fluctuation period? Okay, KG. So basically, with your thyroid, the most important thing is, have you had blood work? What does the objective data say? If the objective data says that you have hypothyroidism, you need to take medication. I would highly recommend to take medication for thyroxine, for T3. You can improve these things naturally. And hormone balancing also, you want to hormone balance, but you want to do it through the lifestyle choices. So if you lose 10 kilos, that'll balance your hormones better than anything, because you're going from an unhealthy position to a healthy position. Now, if you want the best balancing of hormones, that will also then be like make you the healthiest generation of South Asian that you are compared to your family. You just need 5 metrics. You need a BMI of 23. You need muscle mass of your body weight of 60% as a female. You need a blood sugar below 5, and you need to be able to do a press up. And you need the last one is you need body fat under 25%. If you do all of those hormones, you'll be in the healthiest place possible. You'll have navigated your probably benefit from your periods unless you have things like endometriosis or any kind of particular issues around that area. But from a health perspective, you would take care of all your health concerns by just focusing on those 5 metrics. And it's not like a lovely answer where I say eat this, drink this, take this supplement, but ultimately they're the biggest bang for your buck. I could tell you 17 different tricks to do, but none of them are going to be actually as effective as those 5 metrics and working on those. And I would rather you focus on the big things too. And sometimes over the course of a month as well, you don't want to focus on maintaining balanced hormones. Your hormones are supposed to be up and down. Like, they're not meant to be crazy erratic and dysregulated, but you are meant to have cycles of your hormones. So you're meant to go from really happy, sad, super focused into the crying just before you're getting really emotionally upset. You're meant to do that. That's what the hormone changes are across ovulation and follicular phases. So that's okay. Just how you manage that is really important. If you do find they're overwhelming or your periods are really heavy, for example, that's always where you go and see an OBGYN and then work on those 5 generational habits for sure. How do you account for protein in pav bhaji? It's one of those meals that you would just sit there and go, this meal is not going to be high protein. There's no way that you can add high protein unless you have yogurt on the side. So pav bhaji was one of those meals that are more like a pastime, an eclectic one where that's once on the weekend, and then maybe your other meals across the day are high protein. But in pav bhaji, it's potato and bread. There's very little protein in that. And then I don't know how to make protein powders at home, because unless you know how to filter milk, and I wouldn't probably want to taste that as well. Like the reason why they have flavoring in is because it tastes good and it's more palatable. So I would recommend just navigating that best. Vegetarian, that's good. Thank you very much for your patience, giving replies to all the questions. What's the difference between practical and traditional? That's a good question. Good job. So what we did was, when we made these variations of brain fart. So when we made these variations for people to get results, some people are on the go, right? So like, that you'll see some different variations of like things that you can grab and go. So especially with our like UK clients, US clients, for some reason, because they like work in big cities like New York, or they work like in London. Like if you've been to London, you'll see a Pret, a Starbucks, Eat on every corner in a block mile radius of all central London. So sometimes people don't choose to make their own food, and then if you forget your own food, the worst thing that you could go into work is hungry, and then next minute you're seeing the bag of crisps, and then you're seeing the chocolate bars, and you don't get prepared. So what we did is we made these last ditch things where people get practical examples of going to like Subway and getting a 6-inch veggie patty, which is 430 calories, I think, off the top of my head, or going to Marks and Spencer's and getting some of the plant-based protein sources and a bag of veggies, for example, or some salad on the side. It just allows you to go the difference between I'm cooking at home versus I need to win on this day. I don't want to mess up my diet, but I've forgotten my food. So how do I go into work and not mess up my diet? That's why the practical ones are there, because you want to win in every scenario. Does going vegan help faster fat loss? So no, let me bring you back to this. So energy balance is how much of food that you eat. Macronutrients is what you eat. So you can see that macronutrients is higher than energy balance. So the macronutrients is the vegan stuff. It's how much you eat, of whether you eat meat, protein, carbs, veggies, and that will be the different ingredient sources. But below that is energy balance, which is how many calories of the vegan food that you eat. So you can definitely lose weight on vegan, but you can also gain weight on vegan if you don't manage your calorie intake. Now, most people who go in these, like, I guess, if I would just say, have a rule of thumb, if it's a popular diet, it's rubbish, because it requires some type of cult following and community, and requires a level of like, it's got a story arc behind it. Vegan's got a story arc behind it. It's a great story. It's a great like a community cult to have. Keto has that story behind it. No carbs, ketogenesis, pulls fat stories. They've all got a story behind it. But actually, what you're looking for is like the less sexy stuff, where someone just comes and says, like me, like, hey, please do this. It's not sexy, and maybe we can eat some traditional food as well, but it's not like a diet per se where I'm going to do the X. Normally stay away from those ones, unless it's saying I'm going to do Nathan's diet. That's okay. What's the best protein for women? How much are they having? All sources. If you're talking about, like, I'm assuming you might not be talking about supplements because we talked about the whey protein before, but what's the best protein for women? There is no better for women versus men. Even like the tofus and stuff like that, the research on like the estrogenic effects of tofu is wildly kind of miscommunicated within the research, to the point where the research shows that more tofu and soy-based food is actually beneficial for health as opposed to the estrogenic effects, which is really interesting considering how many people stay away from tofu because of its estrogen effects. But my best option is the ones that you take your favorite 3 protein sources that have leucine in and use them more frequently, 3 to 5. For me, it's chicken, fillet steak, salmon, paneer, and if we're feeling a bit, lucky, there'd be a bit like some turkey burgers or something like that. I feel a bit fancy. Like, that's my 5. And I will rotate them around, and sure, some of them have higher protein and some higher calories because of what else is in there. But ultimately, the best exploration that you can do to answer that question for yourself is which ones do I like? Which ones do my family enjoy? What does the recipe book say? And to make various different variations. And then the number that you want to be having on a day-to-day basis. If you are tracking and you are diligent for at least 2 weeks to understand your numbers, understand how much portion size you need and all this type of stuff, is that most women want about 1 pound of their body weight, but you can start lower and build up because it's quite a jump. So if you're not used to having protein at every meal, it can be quite an overwhelming process because it's quite filling, and it's weirder having more yogurts and tofus than it would be to have more rice and dal. You want to start like 0.6, so about 60-70 grams a day. If you're tracking it, get it up to above 100, and then you'll be absolutely hunky-dory for not losing your muscle mass. The lanya, Greek yogurt, and halloumi. So the thing with halloumi, and Anjali, have you looked at the swaps document? There's loads in the protein options. That's why we gave you the swaps. If you want more, but they're kind of your biggest bang for your buck, great ones that there is. If Judy's already put that in there. Halloumi and I never pronounce that Lan one. Terrible with my variations of pronunciation. But the ones that I would say, I wouldn't choose halloumi and lan on a regular basis, is because of it. It also comes with a high degree of fat. So you see, like, Greek yogurt has, you got normal Greek yogurt, then you've got low fat Greek yogurt, then you've got normal milk, then you've got semi-skimmed and skimmed milk. Whereas like halloumi and your other ones are quite high in fat as a percentage. So people say, oh, halloumi's protein. It's like, actually halloumi is about 50% protein versus like, paneer might actually be like 70% protein, and the egg whites is 100% protein. So you want to look at the dosages around it before, like, nothing is a protein source just by what we're saying. It's how much of it is a protein source. So for example, a protein powder is 100% protein because it's 100%. And then if you look at low-fat Greek yogurt, it's about 95% protein and 5% additional stuff. Halloumi is like 50-50. So its effectiveness and its ability to stay low on calories and high on protein is rather hard with halloumi. Don't get me wrong, I love the Nando's one in JVC Mall where I live really close to. A great Nando's breakfast is absolutely fantastic with halloumi. And then labna. Okay, it was the spelling, not my pronunciation. I'll blame you for that one, Rup. And then just on that, on vegetarian protein sources, the ones that are going to hold your muscle tissue are as follows: anything soy-based, anything tempeh, in the right quantities, dairy, dal, chanas, rajmans. I would put them in the low quality list. But it doesn't mean that you don't have it. It just means that when you have these protein sources, you need to have like 125 grams of low-fat yogurt with it, or you need to have what we call essential amino acids with it, which is a supplement. But I would just recommend starting with the yogurt. Whether it's soy, paneer, any cheese variation that's got high protein, any of the mock meat variations that also come through with that too, they're going to be your major sources of protein that actually build, maintain muscle tissue and turn on that switch for growth. And then the rest of the things would be lower protein. So 80-20, get, those 5-6 sources, get them in rotation, and then, have a variation across the week of the other ones too. And it will take, is soy okay for menopause women on a regular basis? Yeah, so like that's what I was saying, soy chunks, yeah, soy chunks, anything soy is amazing. So soy is okay, absolutely. So it's like with anything, if you eat something 3 times a day, it's going to get pretty boring very, very quickly. And it's also going to get, you could have too much lettuce in your system to make you not be able to go to the toilet, and that would be bad. So everything has a cost, an opportunity cost, a benefit, and a positive. If I was looking at what the research says, not my own opinion, and having had I guess partners, girlfriends, whether it was in the Swaminarayan community or it was Serbian, which is completely different, is they were veggie and they would eat soy every single day, and they were some of the healthiest people I knew. And some of the people that we work with now are in the 50s and 60s, eating soy pretty much every day, and they have low body fat, they have great health, they have great health metrics. They're not affected by it. It's normally the people that are out of shape that are worried about the soy, and then the people that are in shape are worried about the bigger stuff that actually promote their health better. So yeah, it's absolutely fine. There's better health outcomes from having soy and high protein than having the negative benefits from it. All right. Okay, let me have a look at this famous dietitian. Okay, cool. Let's get into some gossip. What about our famous dietitian Rajuta saying it's okay to develop fat during this period as a defense mechanism? I don't know enough about what she's saying. I know the body. The body doesn't have a defense mechanism of developing fat. You gain fat by what you ingest or what you do. So I'm going to stay out of that one because I don't know enough.
I'll share one of her reels with you, so I know the context. She recently, I think the last week, she posted a reel on Instagram saying it's okay if you're doing everything right, you're still getting fat because it's menopause and women tend to gain fat because as a defense against menopause.
Okay, if that's the okay. So about a year ago, I'll tell you a story time. A year ago, I went through this phase of helping a lot of menopausal women at the same time. It was like I don't know who'd called them all at the same time. I was like, you need to get with Nathan, and I was like, okay, cool. Well, I need to know a little bit more about this going on. So I did the usual Nathan thing, as he did 7 years ago when he got into the community. Is I just did everything about menopause. I talked to the best doctors. I went to America. I talked to those guys. I went to the UK. Everyone and anyone, and the research is really clear, and it's really hard to say. The research is really clear that you don't gain fat from the menopause itself. You gain fat from your reaction to how you feel during menopause. So that's the research, right? So menopause doesn't change how much fat you gain, but most people, if everybody based on the research, gain fat because of how they felt. It's a very emotional time and uncertain, like I said, about this high days, low days, that everything reacts. And if your major trigger and your major go-to to feel better is food or alcohol or socializing, and you're feeling terrible 4 days out of 7, it would be unreasonable to not think that you would utilize food in a way that would be a little bit more than probably what you need to have. So that's what the research would show, that most of the time, 100%, the feelings of what you go through are really difficult and it's very uncertain. I remember my mum going through it and I was like, Mum, what are you doing? Like, you're going a bit crazy. Like, what's going on? And like, she would just say, I just feel one day I'm hot and bothered, and the next day I'm waking up with sweats, and the next day, and then she'd tell me all the stuff that she go through. And she's a church-going, loving British white woman from the north, scum of the earth, up the top of near Liverpool. And I'd never seen her like that. And to see her, who was a very strong mental person, God-going, Bible-going, that type of stuff, to then have these kind of feelings that she was expressing to me, it can be really difficult. And then, same thing I noticed, and obviously I was into nutrition at that point. I was barely 18 at that point. I noticed how she would react to food as well. She was obviously consuming a lot more in different times of the day. She was letting loose a little bit more at the weekend. And then she would be a lot less active because she felt a certain way. And I felt that that's a large impact in why people gain weight during menopause. Because we have people that have lost weight during menopause. It just depends on the strategy and the outlook and how severe the low days are versus the high days, and your outlook on it too. If you believe that you're going to gain weight because everybody else has done, you probably will follow the same path. But these ladies came in and wanted to change it, and then we told them exactly what I said right now. So I'm going to break something to you really aggressively, and I'm hoping we can hug after this. Like, this is what needs to happen. This is what's happening. And she was like, yeah, like outside of like me being able to, and this is what she said to me. One of the clients was like, I could sit here and I could probably argue and say why that's not true, and oh no, that's not me. I know it's me, and I don't want to admit it, but these things are happening, and therefore I probably need your help to be able to do that. But thank you for creating that awareness around what I was doing 7 days of the week, 14 days of the week, 21 days of the week. That was leading to me gaining fat, and then these ladies then took on the push forwards. So yeah, so that's what happens. I think there's a level to that too. Please clarify about homemade protein. Not sure if I'm doing it right. I have no clue. You're asking the wrong guy. I live off InstaShop, so if you want recommendations from InstaShop, I've got you. But like making your own protein powder is that's a salute, a fair play for you to do that. That's mental. If you do make your own homemade paneer, by the way, if you make that, then I would buy it off you. So if you're gonna start up something to do with homemade paneer, I'm in. We roast pecan seeds, sattu, and made a fine powder. Add black pumice. That's awesome. Does it discount? No. So macana nuts and seeds, they're all non-protein foods. They have protein in, but they're not protein rich. So they're more like fat grams. So they have a higher percentage of fat, and they have a lower percentage of protein. So they might be really healthy to some degree with seeds and macana, and obviously macana is amazing. I love the macana nuts, but it's no protein. It needs leucine. So yeah, and if you get on the paneer, let me know. I'll buy some from you. Okay, awesome. Right. Anyone got any particular questions? I'm here to help. Hopefully you guys have got the guides, you've got the extra stuff of what you need. Like I said, I'm in me and the team are here in Dubai. We've got like 7 coaches over here, working with over thousands of people over across globally. So anything that you wanted to pick your brains on, I'm here for the next 10 minutes just to see how I can help you the best.
Any final questions for Nathan? Anything? I mean, thank you so much. You've explained everything with a lot of patience, so really appreciate it. I think for me, one of the takeaways was the plate. I've just looked it up on Amazon. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to order it because I think it's great. It's a great guide, very practical guide.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you, ladies, for listening to me ramble. And then any way that we can help along the way, we're more than happy to help the community.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. See you soon. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.